Okay, the topic is role of soil, climatic and agronomic factors in vegetable production. So, firstly, what are the objectives of a vegetable grower when someone is having vegetable farms and growing vegetables? What is his objectives? So, objectives of a farmer or our vegetable growers is to achieve optimum growth of plants in minimum time with the least labor cost. So, it is his the big first objective to get maximum growth of the plants and to use least of the labor, and the labor cost should be less to gain profit from selling the produce in the market, right? So this is the second objective, that by selling the produce in the market he can gain the profit, and to supply fresh vegetables to consumers and thus provide nutrition, right? So by providing fresh vegetables in the market, he is providing nutrition to many people, right? So there are so many factors which affect the growth of vegetables and development of the vegetable crops. So what are these factors? First is climate and weather, then temperature, moisture, humidity, wind, soil, nutrients, salinity, pest, diseases and weeds. So these all factors affect the growth of vegetables in one way or in the other way. So now we will discuss these factors. So firstly, we will discuss about temperature. Temperature is the most important factor among all of the factors of that affect the growth and development of the vegetables. So temperature affect the vegetables at different phases of growth, such as at seed germination, for general survival, development of economic parts. Do you know what is the meaning of this economic part? Economic part means the edible portion which we are consuming, or and by which selling the part farmers are getting income. So those are the economic part, like vegetables. Some vegetables are root vegetables like a carrot and turnip, radish. So the economic part in the root crops is the root. Then in some crops, economic part is leaves, like in spinach, coriander, fenugreek. So the economic part is leaves, and in some vegetables, economic part is fruit, like in brinjal, tomato. So economic part is different in the different crops, different vegetable crops. Like then temperature also affect the vegetable crops at the time of flowering, at the time of pollination, at the time of fruit set. It also affects the quality of the produce, seed production, seed storage, seed dormancy, and occurrence of diseases and pests. So temperature affect the vegetable crops at different stages of the development. So if we talk about where we can get the low temperature and where we get high temperature, so low temperature is attained in the high hills, right? So in the lowlands, it is cooler during certain parts of the year, and temperature is the most important factor which determines what crop to be grown in a certain place, right? So it depends upon the climate, it depends upon the temperature, that which kind of crop can be grown in the certain places. So optimum temperature, what is optimum temperature? Optimum temperature means each crop require a favorable range of temperature for its growth and development. That is known as optimum temperature for a particular crop, right? So vegetables are classified as cool season and warm season crops. Cool season crops are those which survive even at temperature ranging from 0 to 5 degrees Celsius, right? At very below temperatures, these crops can survive. Some crops like asparagus, onion, rhubarb, spinach can withstand frost better than the others, right? So some crops are there which can withstand frost also, right? So crops like garden beet, broad bean, and coal crops can tolerate a minimum temperature of 5 degrees Celsius, but lower temperature at maturity may cause injury. So there are some crops which can tolerate a minimum temperature of 5 degrees Celsius. But if the temperature fall below this 5 degrees centigrade, then it may cause injury to these crops. right? So many of them, when exposed to chilling temperatures, they bolt, right? So that crops which can tolerate 5 degrees Celsius, and if the temperature falls down, then their bolting may occur, and some other disorders or diseases may occur. Then there are some crops like carrot, cauliflower, peas, potatoes, lettuce, celery, chicory, parsley, and mustard. These can tolerate a minimum temperature of 7 degrees Celsius, right? So they cannot tolerate the temperature that is below 7 degrees Celsius, right? So they can tolerate temperature up to 7 degrees Celsius. So thus, according to their requirement of temperature for their growth and development, temperature below 18 degrees Celsius are cool season crops, and temperature above 18 degrees Celsius are warm season crops, right? So this is divided according to the temperature requirements. So the crops which require temperature below 18 degrees Celsius, they are classified into a group known as cool season crops, and the vegetables which require more than 18 degrees Celsius temperature, they are termed as warm season crops. So here is the example. So there are some crops which can tolerate a temperature of the optimum temperature range, we can see. The optimum temperature range for cabbage, potato, garlic, onion, spinach, peas is 7 to 13 degrees Celsius. Then there are some crops like sweet pepper, carrot, radish, tomato, etc. So these can tolerate a temperature of 13 to 18 degrees Celsius, or you can say that this is the best temperature range for these crops. And for cucurbits, okra, cowpea, brinjal, the optimum temperature range is 18 to 30 degrees Celsius, right? So it depends upon the temperature that which crops can be grown in the particular area. Now, extreme temperatures. Extreme temperatures means very high temperatures and very low temperatures. So, crops may get injured even at very high temperatures and at very low temperatures. So, vegetables grow within a narrow temperature range, right? As we have discussed that some of the crops can tolerate a temperature of 7 to 13, then 13 to 18, 18 to 30. So if those crops like cucurbits cannot withstand with the temperature below 20 degrees Celsius, and if the temperature is less like 0 degrees Celsius, the plants may be killed by frost. And if the temperature is very high, that is at 40 degrees Celsius, they are killed by heat. So there is a narrow temperature range in which vegetables can be grown. Many plants are permanently damaged at 10 degrees Celsius or even ahead 15 degrees Celsius, and most of the crops lose their photosynthetic efficiency above 30 degrees Celsius. So, uh, uh, your crops even may get damaged at 10 degrees Celsius, at 15 degrees Celsius, and at above 30 degrees Celsius. So, the crops which can tolerate a particular range of temperature, only those crops can be grown in that area, right? Next, chilling temperature injury. Chilling temperature or a chilling injury. So when the temperature falls down like 0 degrees Celsius, or when the chilling occurs, so many of the vegetable crops get injured by the chilling injury. So crops requiring high temperatures are very susceptible to chilling temperature, right? So the crops which require more than 15, more than 20 degrees Celsius, and they get very easily susceptible to chilling temperatures, and they get chilling injuries. Symptoms of chilling injury are the appearance of discolored area, right? So poor color development of dispersed area on the leaves or fruits is also an indication of chilling injury. Uh, it is result between the temperature and time of exposure. If the temperature falls down for a very short time, maybe short hours, for very few hours, then it may not cause chilling injury. But if the time of exposure is more, then the crops are get more injured. For example, short period of exposure of 8 degrees Celsius may cause as much as damage uh, as long exposure to 12 degrees Celsius. So timing, the time, uh, it also time of exposure also affect on the chilling injuries. So tropical vegetables cannot tolerate temperature below 12 degrees Celsius, while the temperate crops can be stored at 0 degree or near 0 degree Celsius, right? So the tropical vegetables like cucurbits, you can say, or brinjal, right? So these crops cannot tolerate temperature below 12 degrees Celsius. So this is the picture is showing storage of tomato in at 0 degree Celsius, at 5 degree Celsius, 10 degree Celsius, 15, 20, and 30 degree Celsius. So this 15 to 20 degree Celsius is the optimum storage temperature for tomatoes. So you can see that it at 0 degree Celsius the color of tomato is green. At 5 it is somewhat reddish, then at 10, and the particular color developed at 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, right? And at again at 30 degrees Celsius the color of the tomato is not good. So it means that at the time of storage even the temperature affects the storage of the fruits and vegetables. Then heat stress. Heat injuries may be caused by the high temperatures, right? So temperature above 30 degrees Celsius inhibit the germination of lettuce, celery, and tuber formation in potato. So these crops, lettuce, celery, these are cool season crops, and if temperature is higher, that is 30 degrees Celsius, that these crops will not germinate. And in case of potato, again the formation will not be good, or tuber formation will not be there if the temperature is more than 30 degrees Celsius. Then fruit set of solanaceous crops and legumes, vegetables declines as the temperature exceeds 32 degrees Celsius. Solanaceous crops means the crops like tomato, potato. These are the solanaceous crops, and these require a lower temperature, 15 to 18 degrees Celsius or 20. And if the temperature raises more than 32 degrees Celsius, then fruit set will not be there, will be declined, right? So in tomato, under heat stress conditions, crack at the stem end may occur and the fruit become puffy. So there is a disorder at when heat stress is there, cracks will be appear on the fruit and fruit will become puffy. Onion and radish become more pungent at high temperature, right? So radish में pungency होती है. All of you know that sometimes radish is very pungent, right? So this is because of the higher temperatures. At the temperature above 30 degrees Celsius, the stomata remains closed. Starvation results when net photosynthesis is zero. So photosynthesis will not be there in some crops. The symptoms of heat injury are appearance of dead areas in young stems, in legumes and leaves of onion, cabbage, and lettuce. So there will be symptoms of heat stress, like there will be dead areas in the stems, in the leaves. Then vernalization. Vernalization means giving lower temperatures so that the vegetables or we are talking about vegetables, so we can say that vernalization is a temperature, lower temperature that is given to the vegetables, provided to the vegetables so that they come in flowering, right? So biennial crops and some cool season vegetables such as onion, carrot, cabbage, cauliflower, and spinach. These initiate flower in formation after the exposure to the low temperature, right? So the duration of vernalization to initiate flowering declines as temperature decreases. So when the temperature is lower, then duration will be lower. If the temperature is higher, then duration will be more. For example, at same exposure duration, the radish flowers sooner at 5 degrees Celsius than at 10 degrees Celsius, right? So duration is same. For example, duration is 10 hours and temperature conditions are two. First is 5 degrees Celsius and then is 10 degrees Celsius. So the crop that is under 5 degrees Celsius will initiate flowering early than the crop that is under 10 degrees Celsius, right? So if the temperature is lower, then the time of vernalization will be declined. Then effect of temperature on seed germination. What is the effect of temperature on seed germination? Temperature has effect on seed germination. If the vegetables that are growing in the cool season crops like 5 to 15 degrees Celsius, and we are growing those crops in higher temperatures, then they cannot germinate, right? So there is a optimum temperature range for germination of the vegetable crops. So optimum temperature range for seed germination of warm season crops are 24 to 30 degrees Celsius, right? So for warm season vegetables, the optimum range for seed germination is 24 to 30 degrees Celsius, and for cool season vegetables, the optimum range is 5 to 15 degrees Celsius. And most of the warm season vegetables impaired germination at higher temperature beyond 30 degrees Celsius, right? So even the vegetables of warm season, they cannot germinate if the temperature is more than 30 degrees Celsius. So there is a optimum temperature range where the vegetable crops can germinate. So if the temperature range is lower or higher than that range, then vegetables not will not properly germinate. Then effect of temperature on the development of economic parts. So I have already discussed economic parts means the edible parts, and by which selling the economic parts farmers can get income. So it is the more important to know the optimum temperature ranges required for development of economic parts of vegetables. So it is of most important this point that what temperature, which temperature range is optimum at the time of development of economic parts. So since yield is, because yield is directly affected by the temperature levels, so it is essential to know the minimum, optimum and maximum temperature level required for the vegetable crops during the development of their economic parts. Then effect of temperature on the flowering. At the time of flowering, again, if the temperature range is lower or higher than the optimum range, then flowering will not occur properly, or flowers will shed down. So the range at the time of flowering should be known. So on the basis of temperature requirement of flowering, vegetable crops can be grouped as chilling requirement and non-chilling requirement crops. So as we have already talked in the vernalization, right? Vernalization means to give lower temperature so that flowering can be induced. So it is grouped into two parts like chilling requirement and non-chilling requirement crops. So most of the biennial requires chilling to some extent before flowering. So biennial crops require chilling so that their dormancy can be broken. So because these crops, biennial crops, enter into the dormancy phase. So dormancy is broken by providing lower temperatures, by providing vernalization, you can say. And degree of chilling requirement differs from crop to crop. However, average chilling should continue for 1 to 2 months, right? So chilling requirement or vernalization continues for 1 to 2 months to induce the flowering in biennial crops. So here are the examples of some chilling requirement crops and the non-chilling requiring crops. The chilling requiring crops are beet, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, carrot, celery, onion, leek, etc. And non-chilling requiring crops are all the vegetables of tropical and subtropical areas or warm season crops. They do not require any chilling requirement, right? So all the cucurbits, eggplant, sweet pepper, tomato, tropical radish, tropical cauliflower, tropical cabbage, tropical turnip, okra, peas, beans, Chinese cabbage, these all crops do not require any chilling hours or do not require any vernalization, right? So then is the effect of temperature on pollination and fruit set, right? So after flowering, pollination is there. So pollination temperature also having effect on pollination and then on fruit set. If pollination temperature at the time of pollination is not optimum, then pollination will not occur properly and fruit setting will be lower. So for most of the crops, temperature determines pollination, pollen tube germination, and percentage of the fruit set. Generally, the optimum average monthly night temperature of tomatoes is 21 to 23 degrees Celsius for pollination and fruit set, right? So here the example of tomatoes have been given, that temperature uh, range for pollination in tomatoes is 21 to 23 degrees Celsius, and if this temperature range is provided at the time of pollination, then fruit setting will be good. So in higher or lower temperatures, blossom drop occurs, and post pollen germination and pollen tube. So blossom drop will occur if there is a higher temperature or the lower temperature. Then effect of temperature on the quality of produce. Quality of produce is important for vegetable grower because vegetable produce under normal environmental conditions are better in the quality, and better quality vegetables always fetch higher market prices, right? So if the crop is grown under a normal environmental conditions, their quality will be good, and if the quality of the produce is good, then it can fetch higher price in the market. So some examples of effect of temperature are for color development. Yellow and red pigment development in tomato is uh, temperature dependent, and optimum temperature for color development in tomato is 10 to 30 degrees Celsius. Then yellow pigment development is at 10 degrees Celsius. Red pigment development is suppressed above 30 degrees Celsius, right? So if the temperature is more than 30 degrees Celsius, the red pigment development will be suppressed. So now at 40 degrees Celsius and above, the mechanism of red pigment development is permanently damaged. So if this tomato may face a higher temperature of 40 degrees Celsius or may above the 40 degrees Celsius, then the ability of red pigmentation will be permanently damaged. And in carrots, the orange color is carotene, and the optimum temperature for this color development is 15 to 22 degrees Celsius. Then the effect of temperature on the physiological disorders means if the temperature is very high or very low, some physiological disorders may occur in the vegetables. So here we can take the example of cauliflower. When it is exposed to the cool temperatures, it buttoning may be caused. Buttoning is heads are very small, like buttons, right? So miniature curds, the curds of the cauliflower will be very small. That is known as buttoning. And very low temperatures of 1 to 20 degrees Celsius can cause bolting, right? So bolting may also occur at very low temperatures. Then at high temperatures, the curds may lose, right? So the curds of the good quality curds are very compact in nature, but if the temperatures are higher, then these curds may loosen, right? So in radish and turnip and broad-leaved mustard, higher temperature cause bolting. Bolting means uh, production of setting of seeds before the flowering, right? So very early setting of seeds. So in radish, turnip, and broadleaf mustards, the higher temperature may cause bolting. So this is the effect of temperature, that some of the physiological disorders may occur because of the temperature only. Next is the effect of temperature on seed production. Now, seed production, there are different vegetables, cool season vegetables and warm season vegetables. So, cool season vegetables require a cool temperature, lower temperature for seed production, and warm season crops require higher temperature for seed production. So, at the time of seed production, temperature uh, uh, plays a very important role, right? So temperature requirement of vegetable crops for seed production is differ from different crops. Most of the cool season crops require lower temperature during their early growth period and higher temperature during flowering, fruit setting and seed maturity, right? So even the cool season crops, they require very less lower temperature at the time of germination, at the time of their early growth, but at the time of flowering, fruit setting and seed maturity, they require somewhat higher temperature. Then occurrence of diseases and pests, because of the high temperature and because of the lower temperature, many of the diseases occur. Many of the pests also attack the crop because of the lower temperatures and because of the higher temperatures. So diseases and pests occur at certain temperature levels. For example, late blight of potato, that is a disease in potato, late blight of potato and tomato, becomes epidemic at fairly lower temperature conditions, right? So when there is a very low temperatures, then this late blight in potatoes and tomatoes may occur. Bacterial wilt of tomato occurs at higher temperature conditions. So in tomato, if there are higher temperature conditions, then bacterial wilt will be occur. Insect population increases and become active in higher temperature conditions, right? So insect attack is also increased when the temperature ranges are higher, because insects are very active at the higher temperature conditions and their population also increases, and so is with the they will attack on the crops when their growth is more. Okay, this is all about the temperature, right? The effect of temperature on the vegetable crops.